Hi, everybody. Are you guys loving this deep dive into AI? I wish I could stay and learn so much more from you.
Oh my goodness, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. How are you?
It's so great. Last night, I just have to tell you a story. I was experimenting with a little application, and I was telling my daughter, she's 20, she goes to the College of Charleston. She's a business major. I said, have you been playing with AI at all? The answer was no. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do a little prompt. So I said, give me something to write into this, and I'll show you how it works. And she goes, okay, write an essay about me, an essay about Emma Young. So I developed a prompt with her, I wrote it, and then she sat there and she watched it generate a story of her. Can I give you guys the opening headline? It's pretty good. You always love to talk about your family, so I'm going to start with this. All right, so here's the headline, guys. The brilliance of Emma Young, a rising star in the business world. As the sun rises over the historic city of Charleston, it casts a warm glow on the College of Charleston, a beacon of knowledge and tradition. I will not go on, but I'll tell you, as Emma watched this generate in front of her, she was like, it's pretty good. So, anyway, so it's funny. It's great when you can be in my level and try and teach my daughter something. So hopefully they actually think that we know something.
Parents' job is never done.
Yeah.
No, it's all, look, it's funny. Everybody, when the first ChatGPT stuff started to happen back in November of 22, got a lot of calls early December from CEOs and around our clients telling me all about the things that it does. And I said, would it surprise you to learn that we've had transformer models running on your premises for 3 years now? And they're like, what? It's like, yeah, you didn't care about it. Like, no one cared about this until the consumer products showed up, and then it got into the zeitgeist. And I'm surprised, though, at it was like a parlor trick for a little while, and then everybody kind of like got over it from a consumer perspective. The synthetic characters are now getting an immense amount of attention. People are spending, the top quintile of character AI users are there 2.5 hours a day. I don't know, Dave and I were just talking about like this new generation. What does it mean that they're willing to spend 2.5 hours a day with fake Paris Hilton and fake Elon Musk? Well, like fake Tony, I guess Tony Stark is actually fake in real world. So, but fake Tony Stark, if that's even a thing. So that's a kind of a big indictment of where we are, like as a race of people. It's like synthetic everything is like a big deal. So yeah, it's unsurprising to me that it doesn't have a lot of consumer uses, but it does have an awful lot of business to business uses. And I wondered, from where you're sitting in a world of science fiction electric vehicles that are unbelievable, and just the world of real live performance marketing, how you guys are thinking about it, and what what's good, what's bad, what's on your mind with respect to AI in the business world?
I'll start by maybe doing a level set for the group here, because while many people are familiar with Ford Motor Company, a 120-year-old brand, what they're not familiar with is Pro, which is the business to business side of this. And it's an incredible story, because Ford Pro as a division only got started about 3 years ago. And so they've been selling commercial vehicles since 1905, but the whole purpose of it is how you help businesses, small, medium, large government enterprises, become more productive. And in the world where your vehicle is increasingly your smart device, your smartphone, and we're going to have in the next few years a fully digital vehicle that will be led by software. We're getting there. It's coming, right? And all the OEMs are doing this, and Tesla's been leading in this space. But it is moving this so that even our industrial systems are being transformed with AI, because the software is increasingly leading the way that the product's coming to market. And then in Pro, we're also actually using software to help customers be more productive. So inherently, the core products that are embedded in what we're selling for business customers are becoming more productive through the use of ML, AI, predictive, et cetera. So how that transforms from a marketing team perspective, our job then is to help these business customers be more productive. Well, internally, then we need to look at how we're being more productive. So a lot of the definition about how we determine what to do with this is what's the from and to scenario in a business world, where we can say that our teams, and I run a call center, I have teams that are doing human experience design from end to end, as well as programmatic, our media efficiency, all of the content we create. But a lot of the things that teams aren't great at, I think, is doing a benchmarking of saying, hey, how long does it take us to bring a campaign to market? If we were going to do, image editing, how long would it take us to do 100 images? So in order to quantify what the step change will do when you start applying AI into this, a lot of times when I ask my own teams this, and this is my own set of direct reports, if I ask these baseline questions, they don't have that. And so we have to actually start with the beginning of, well, it's almost like it's industrial era process management. What does it take for us to get this widget out the door? Only in this case, it might be development of content, development of contact center scripts, how well we data mine what the customers are telling us. And so we have to start with the beginning of that in order to go, well, how would it look if we transform using whether it's generative AI or it's machine learning or automation? And those are the things, I work with the technology team at Ford to try to develop what these specific use cases would look like for us to get there. So there's a lot of pilots happening today, but the world of how we get to not just doing testing for fun, but actually applying it with our business customers is the place where we're really trying to focus. And so it's truly development of business applications that are customer facing.
When you triage what those are, since there have to be hundreds of opportunities to apply it, but there's only so many people and so many hours in the day, what are the kind of filters you're using to determine what's important and what would make the most sense to do?
The point that you just made, which is, well, we were already doing all this. We already had machine models that were built. We were already, those are the underlying core assets that now the tech team is using to feed into. So, we had a knowledge base, but the knowledge base wasn't automated, it wasn't refined. And so now you can take that knowledge base that a call center agent would have traditionally searched to find information, but now that's actually getting built into the AI model. So now we have a large language model in order to automate and be able to more easily synthesize information for a contact center agent. So the prioritization ends up being, was there an underlying business application that existed that can now, through the use of AI and ML, become much faster in order to develop something that has a customer benefit? So that's kind of the flow through as we're working with the tech team. They have an AI energy room that actually talks through, like, here's the core competencies, and then what are the ways that we would use to develop based upon what exists today.
When you think about the future, you can break it up into two sides, right? There's productivity and workflow and process innovation, which is, I think it's table stakes now. I think everybody has to get there because if you don't, then margins are going to suffer, right? So we're going to have to get that done. But then there's this whole other thing, this ability to use AI and all the available tools to surface new experiences, whether that be a customer service experience or an in-vehicle experience. Are we far away from that? Is that in the works? I know there's an all-digital product coming. I know that. So where does new experience from? I mean, the cars haven't really substantially changed in a while. We've been promised self-driving cars by Elon Musk. Every year it's going to be 100% level 5 self-driving. He says with enthusiasm pretty much every year.
I know, until the lawsuits happen, that's really rough, right? So
yeah, but he hasn't actually given us level 5 self-driving cars, and we might not get there for a minute. But it's getting there. It seems like the industry is more interested in EVs than AVs now, but all that notwithstanding, since it's not up to you and me how that pans out, the question I'm really asking is where, from a marketer's perspective, I want to create experiences for my customers. Is there an opportunity for that evolution? Is there a path for that evolution now?
There absolutely is. I think that the building blocks for these tools, some of the things that we're finding is that we develop what is the, say, Ford operating system for AI that's leveraging all this internal knowledge that is fragmented data across a series of systems. And then there's what you would develop externally only. And so when you're looking to what's going to become your intellectual property, there's a big debate happening right now on, as you feed the model, who gets smartest off of that, right? So that is a conversation that is happening a lot, which is, I'm feeding this AI model, who gets the benefit of that? So that's why this kind of difference of how you develop the customer experience, there's this proprietary discussion happening over the internal IT organization versus the external application providers, from Microsoft, et cetera, to who actually gets to develop that experience? So the answer is
In a
yes,
perfect
it's
world,
being
in a
worked.
perfect world, who should develop that experience?
In a perfect world,
Yeah.
it's open and that you have a proprietary view to your customer because that's a customer relationship that you're trying to develop. And so there has to be a lens on it that enables the brand to be able to put that forward. So there has to be some future development that says, yeah, this is where your AI property is safe versus ours. So this is an interesting place that we're heading into.
So we've been doing a thing with our clients called Building Your First Synthetic Employee. And I've been running those seminars now for.
It must be so unpopular with the employee groups. HR is not usually one of those customers.
Actually, HR is always in the room, which I think is absolutely essential. Look, human beings can only do what human beings can do, and human beings are magical, and creativity is magical. Some people have other words for it. I just use that word for creativity. It's when you do something that is going to be long-lasting, it is generally you feel like you discovered it. You don't feel like you wrote it or created it. And you run around the office going, have you heard this before? Have you seen this before? And people go, no. And it's like, oh, wow, I did this. Like, it's a magical process. But there's a lot of execution in once it's built, once it's conceived, there's a lot of like the knowing how to get it out the door. And there's a lot of process involved. When we talk about a synthetic employee, we talk about, literally, are you and your computer a human-machine partnership? And the answer is yeah, you and your laptop are, right? So would you say that the word processor you could do what you could do without a word processor? The answer is probably no. So the idea of this synthetic employee is like, what higher level cognitive non-repetitive functions could the synthetic employee do that would enhance your productivity, that would make you better at your job or make you more productive? Better is the wrong word. More productive.
Yeah, I talked to my direct reports team about this as we've been having many dialogues around what are we going to do to apply. And what I said, the future vision of this is I said, wouldn't it be great if work was enjoyable?
Can you work that out?
And what I mean by that is if you kind of unpack what that looks like, what are the mind-numbing tasks that you want to get rid of, and then so that you work at that higher level order that you have the capability to be able to do. And that's what I think all of our employees would want. And so my head of content and creative, he wants to be the idea guy. The last thing he wants to be doing is editing a brochure on F-150 Lightning one more time that needs to go out. Like, that's not the best use of his skill set. So that's what we're talking about. It's like, and I think establishing vision like that enables us to say, okay, so what does that look like then? And that's what we're trying to do. But man, it's a grind right now to get there,
So
right?
I was going to say brass tacks. Let's talk about that because as I was saying a minute ago, this is a leadership issue, not a technology issue, right? And you are, not to blow smoke, a very gifted business leader. And so how are you, as an owner of an organization, how are you thinking about incentivizing your head of content? Okay, you're going to get this tool. Now I'm going to take all of that drudgery out of your day. How does that look like? And how does the rest of the organization function around that?
So I think that the first thing is that we have to teach our people. And that's really an interesting thing because a lot of times as data science has come along and a lot of the places we've been over the last 20 years, I've been in roles as the chief marketing officer where I would do reverse mentoring, where somebody in my team is a data science engineer and they're teaching me about the way that we're building audiences in a platform. And I think leaders have to be open to that, right? They've got to go learn. So that's the first thing. So the top level leadership has to do that in order to invest. And then as you do that, you've got to cascade and pass this along to your teams to get them to be at the right level. And then third, it is about accountability. Like I made this declaration to my direct reports team this week. I was like, I will drag you all along. And I said, you're going to wake up one day and you will thank me for this because, you're accountable. You personally are accountable for this into your team in order to develop and cascade this because each of these various and broad teams from communications to call center to content to we're across the board in our various functional design. They're accountable to actually build and lead this into their organization. And so that's where business has to start first, which is what are we trying to accomplish, establish that vision, and then we have to get to be practitioners. And so I'm forcing us all to be users of the platforms so that we actually can be knowledgeable and credible when we're speaking to our teams about it.
Where does an ad agency fit into that future?
The best agencies are always business partners first. They're not about, they bring the creative ideas, but they first have to understand the business. And when they're at the table on the business side of this, then that process I just described should be part of what they're developing as well. And then they know how to do the applications that their customers are looking for. And quite often, I think, unfortunately, that's not the case, is they're waiting for that brief to come in. And it's like, well, we used AI to generate the brief. I mean, unfortunately, so, I mean, that's kind of the reality check that has to happen. And I think, a lot of agencies are definitely working on it, but it starts with its business knowledge first.
I know that you are capable of bringing an awful lot of your data to bear now on every business decision, and a lot of institutional memory, especially for marketing organizations, a lot of institutional memory lived at the agency level. And so there's going to obviously be a sea change now. And you started off by saying you're wondering where the application data is and where the proprietary data is. The institutional memory is a whole full other data set that in many cases resides outside also, and not either with your tech provider or in the internal organization. So is there a process that you're thinking through, and what's the practical way that you're going to think about moving all those things together now?
This is one of the hardest areas in reality. So when I have conversations with our tech team, I'm like, tell me what we're doing to ingest all these different knowledge bases. They're fragmented across not only the company internally, but at your third-party vendors in some case. And they're not all agencies, there's a whole variety of them. And so in the pro tech side of this, we've been working together to systematically move these data stores in-house. So that the first thing is, the reality to them is that they have to be available to you. And what we found is we were, be knowledgeable about where these data stores are and basically who owns them. It's your data. And so that's the first piece, is we've been slowly working through, and it sounds so great, an ingestion process, but it is what's been happening, because there's no way that your AI is going to ever get smarter if it can't access all the available data, right? And so that's what we have to do to teach it. So we have to, that's why I say it's a grind, because the grind on this is classic, a little bit of legacy technology development of doing the basic things. It's garbage in, garbage out. It will never get smarter if it doesn't have access to what you want it to do. So these are some of the really fun projects that are happening, and our tech team loves to say the term about, we have so much tech debt, right? And that's a reality. And so how do you get to the future faster while you're trying to overhaul your legacy systems?
Is it hard to get senior management to understand the financial commitment, or do you just walk in there and ask for money and they just throw it at you?
Of course, they just walk in.
Money's
thrown at me. I love it. It's made the best part of my day job, working on all the bureaucratic administration. So yes, I don't think that we've done a great job as business leaders yet, and particularly in the marketing space, of showing the future vision of what this will look like. So that's our job, and that's why we've got to get great, and that's why it's great that you guys are having this conference, like the plug.
So yeah, look, one of the pushbacks we've seen a lot at Big Corp has come from the CFO's office, almost always, and it's $30 a seat for whatever assistant you want, Copilot, Gemini, whatever, ChatGPT or OpenAI's tools. And they're like, okay, you walk in there and you ask for it for 500 people or 1,000 people in the org. And this is a big number, considering that Microsoft Office is like $22.50 just for the office, and then you throw another 30, you're over $50 a seat for everybody sitting in the org. And they say, okay, so how much more productivity am I going to get out of this? That's the baseline. Then you start adding in, well, I need X million dollars, literally $1 million, to put together a small team that's going to sit here and ingest my data, and I've got a disparate number of data lakes, exterior institutional memory that I've got to bring in. This is a massive amount of money, and I have had various clients have various amounts of luck with going to make that case, especially with, publicly traded companies where every dollar is part of an earnings report. I see this as a pretty long grind. Do you see this thing as like what would the quick win need to look like to make everybody like to loosen up the purse strings? Now, I'm not asking about Ford Pro particularly, but like, what do you think a quick win looks like when you start saying like we're going to show our future vision off? What would be like in a perfect world, we walk into the hierarchy of the Ford senior leadership team and say, "Hey guys, look what we did. Give us a ton of money now." Like, what would that look like?
I was actually just in Budapest last week at our Ford Business Solutions, and that we do work there. And one of the things I found by interviewing the team that does the work there is they are still taking Excel spreadsheets and integrating them into sales reporting. And so I don't know how many salespeople are in this room, but sales reporting is the bane of everyone's existence. And you always have to be accountable as to how are the numbers, right? And yet when you go behind the scenes and talk to all these teams, it's like it is a myriad of still a lot of spreadsheet operations that happen before they get to like whatever the pretty dashboard is that the executive sees. And I think that low-hanging fruit is picking up something like that. It's a highly used opportunity area that when applied, and this doesn't even require AI, right? This is, there's some predictive, some automation, et cetera. Yeah. And then yes, in theory, if you could then add the layer of intelligence, like what would that be, especially if you get into the predictive space? That's what it requires, is that it's always find the pocketbook. Where do they care? And so the stakeholders that you're working with, there's something they care deeply about, and it's finding that hidden insight as to it's just like marketing, right? Figure out what they care about. What do they look at every day? What are they struggling that they can't see on their mobile device? And then that becomes your sell-in opportunity. So those are the kinds of places that we look for, like design a pilot and a quick win around something like that shows immediate high impact to that core set of users.
Love it. So tell me something, tell this group something that nobody knows about, like what's coming from the cool kids camp at Ford Motor Company.
Well, something that, do we have any commercial fleet drivers in the room? Yeah, okay, I figured not. So one of the things that people don't think about is you're running a fleet. So imagine delivery vans for DHL, FedEx, et cetera. And not only that, but like for any of you who live in New York and you've got your plumber, your landscaping coming to your house, check out the vehicles that they're driving. They're Ford trucks. 9 times out of 10, okay. So what I found is that if you're managing a large fleet, part of what you'll find when you talk to the fleet manager is it's extremely difficult to get these drivers to do anything that you want them to do, whether it's bringing them for oil change, maintenance, et cetera. But imagine if you had the power in your office to have a command and control feature and say, hey, guess what? These vehicles are always in the municipal area of New York City. They don't actually need to go over 50 miles an hour. I'm going to set a command and control feature that says they can't drive over 50 miles an hour. Imagine having the power to do that. Or if you are, some of our customers like Verizon, you might put the vehicles all in a depot lot at night and it's a locked door. That is a pretty major issue for a lot of commercial customers. Well, imagine that you can actually program those vehicles that they just can't be drivable after 10 p.m. at night because the service hours are done. So the vehicles effectively are dead. And so software can do that. So that is the current world that we're actually rolling out at Ford Pro in order to help these business customers who run these fleets to be in control of these are assets. It's capital investment. So that's the kind of thing that's really interesting that nobody knows is happening with software development for vehicles.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we ran a demo with Jim Farley and he was like, can I do this for my teenager?
Oh,
and we're like, well, as a CEO, I guess you can. Like, you can do that for your kid's car. But those are some of the really fascinating things. And there will be consumer application to some of this. I mean, there are some older school applications like this that exist with like a dongle, et cetera, and other things. But this is truly software-led.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, Wanda Young, Global CMO of Ford Pro. Let's give her a big hand. Thank you so much. Thank you.